If you're new here, every year I make a video sharing the new travel hacks I discovered and actually used throughout the year. I've done this for 2024, 2025, and now here's 2026's, because travel is always changing and so is the way I plan, book, pack, and fly. None of the tips in this video are repeats from my previous travel hacks videos. These are all things I've added to my routine this year that made traveling easier, cheaper, or more efficient. If you have watched my past videos, this is the next update. And if you're new, I'll link my full travel hacks playlist here and again at the end, since those tips are very relevant and I definitely still use them. Let's dive in. Welcome to World Wanderers.
We're Alicia and Will.
Come wander the world with us. In today's video, I've organized everything into categories so it's easy to follow or jump around. We're talking money, technology, travel products / packing, flying, and reference tools. Let's start with money, because even small changes here can make a big difference over the course of a year. First tip, when I'm using an ATM abroad, I try to avoid taking out round numbers. So instead of pulling out something like $200 or 1,000 pesos, I'll take out 990 pesos or a similar odd amount. This usually gives you at least one smaller bill instead of all large ones, which makes a huge difference for taxis, tips, small shops, or anywhere that can't easily break those big bills. That'll at least hold me over until I check into my hotel, where I usually ask at the front desk if they can break some of my bigger bills. Next, always travel with at least one extra credit card and one extra debit card, ideally stored separately in case of pickpockets. Even if you rarely need them, cards can be locked for fraud, swallowed by an ATM, or just randomly stop working. Having a backup means you're mildly inconvenienced instead of completely stuck. This is especially important if you're moving around a lot or crossing borders. A money tool I use all the time is Numbeo. This is a website I use before a trip specifically to get a realistic idea of local prices. You just enter the city or country you're going to, and it'll let you know the general cost of living, but it also breaks down things into specific item prices, like what an inexpensive meal costs, or a bottle of water, or specific groceries, or a liter of gas. Basically just everyday expenses so you can compare it to home. It helps me set expectations and make an actual budget, especially if I'm staying in one place for a while. An update this year I've been using all the time if you have an iPhone is the search bar for quick conversions. You can type something like 50 euros to US dollars and directly into the search bar, and then it'll convert it instantly. You don't need to go into an app or into the calculator, and it just works fast, like when you're standing at a register or negotiating a price. Now, for leftover cash in another currency at the end of your trip, here's what I do. My first hack is to ask the hotel to apply it to my bill at checkout if I've charged anything to the room or have a remaining balance. And then after that's applied, I'll just put the remaining balance on my credit card. This saves me from having to carry around that extra foreign currency until I have a chance to use it in the future. You lose so much money on converting multiple times that I never convert my leftover currency back to US dollars. If I can't use the hotel bill trick, I'll either save it if I know I'm returning to that country someday, or if not, I'll still save it. Then on my next trip, I'll exchange it to that currency that I now need. So for example, if I'm in Norway, instead of converting my leftover Norwegian kroner back to USD, on my next trip to Belgium, I'll convert the kroner to euros, which saves me an extra conversion. Next up is technology, and these are all little things I started using more intentionally this year that has made travel easier, safer, or just gave me better photos. My first tip is for photos, especially when you're somewhere tall, like in front of a skyscraper. Instead of trying to fit everything into one wide shot, use the vertical panorama mode. This works really well for waterfalls, tall buildings, and monuments. You get way more detail without having to step back into traffic or a crowd. If you want a drone style shot but don't want to drag along a drone, here's a fun one. Put your phone on a tripod, hold it up over your head, and then either set up a timer for a photo or start a video before you even lift it up. Then you can either slowly walk around or even just stay still and then slowly zoom in or out after the fact. It creates a really cool overhead effect and really beats the hassle of a drone in a lot of cases. If you're parking a car somewhere unfamiliar, say, "Hey Siri" or "Hey Google, remember my parking location." Your phone will save it so that you can easily find your way back later, especially in big cities or parking garages. For getting around, Google Maps has an accessibility option that is really useful. You can turn on the wheelchair accessible route setting, And it's incredibly helpful if you're traveling with a stroller or large luggage you want to wheel around. It helps avoid stairs and steep routes that are a pain when you're carrying things. Now I want to talk about a camera tip that makes a big difference in how people look in photos. If you're using the 0.5x wide lens, it matters where you stand in the frame. If you stand right in the middle of the frame, it narrows everything. I sometimes like this because it makes me look skinnier, but if it's a full body shot, it can look very fake and out of proportion. But I also don't want to stand at the edge of the frame. The sides of the image get stretched, which can make people look wider or distorted as well. If you stand at the 1/3 or the 2/3 line, you'll look much more natural. Another camera hack I've been using at hotel checkout. When I'm doing a final sweep of our hotel room and there's a large shelf or tall cabinet that I can't see the top of or the top of the shelf, I'll use the phone on my camera to look up there instead of dragging over a chair or trying to climb up or just not checking the back of the shelves at all. It's faster and you're less likely to miss something that's been pushed to the back. And the last technology hack is for travel paperwork. If you need to upload a photo or a travel form like a passport or visa, you'll often get an error that says the file size is too large. In this case, send a screenshot of the photo you took instead. Screenshots are much smaller in file size and usually upload without any issues, while still being clear enough for the form. Next up is travel products and packing. The first is I started refilling my travel toothpaste tubes. Instead of replacing the little tubes when they run out, I just refill them. The key here is to buy a full-size toothpaste with a tiny nozzle. I like the Crest Complete Scope bottles. And then I'll just insert the tip and fill up the little tube. It meets TSA requirements and is enough to get me through about a 2-week trip. The next one is more of a buying tip than a packing tip, but it's been a real money saver for me this year. If you use Uber or Uber Eats while traveling and are a member of Costco, buy their Uber gift cards. They sell them online and in warehouses and are usually $80 for a $100 gift card, which means you're basically saving 20% on rides you were already going to take. I load them into my account before trips and forget about it. The only caveat here is that the credit will only be applied in the US, but most often I'm using Uber for a ride to or from my home airport, so it's still totally worth it for me. If you travel with jewelry, especially necklaces, this is such an easy hack. Lay each necklace flat on a tissue, then gently roll up the tissue before packing it. When I don't want to bring a whole jewelry case, I just throw the tissue in my toiletry bag. The tissue adds just enough friction to keep the chains from moving around and tangling. And finally, this is a packing habit I started when traveling with someone else. If you're traveling with a companion, swap at least one full outfit with each other and pack it in the other person's bag. If one suitcase is delayed or lost, you both still have something clean and wearable, which makes a stressful situation much easier to deal with. I personally am waiting on a lost bag from Frontier at this very moment, so this feels very relevant. Next up is flying, and these are a few habits that made airport days noticeably easier this year. First is a small thing that's made a big difference for me since I travel with all of my flight essentials in a fanny pack. When you sit down, place your fanny pack over the tray table and then close the tray. It keeps your essentials right in front of you and you're not constantly reaching down during the flight, and it keeps your foot area clear to put your feet in if you want to stretch out. You don't have to fully unpack and pack every time you need something. I started doing this consistently and it's made my flight feel way more organized. Now, sometimes airlines don't like you to hang anything over the tray table, so if a flight attendant says anything to you, I obviously am going to take it down, but I always try. Next, make sure your frequent flyer number and seat preferences are actually entered into every app for every airline. I'm too cheap to pay for seat selection, but I've noticed this has made a huge difference in me getting the type of seat I want, like a window seat or an aisle seat. And this can be tricky to find in apps. So after I book, I'll just Google, where can I enter my seat preferences in the United app, for example. There will usually be an AI overview answer right at the top of the Google page that walks you through it. This increases the chances of getting the type of seat you prefer automatically, especially if there are aircraft changes or seat reassignments. Even if I have no status with that airline, this has worked for me. The next one is important if your flight gets delayed. Even if your flight shows a delay, still plan to arrive at the airport based on the original departure time. I've had this happen to me so many times this year where I'll be notified of a delay and then they'll undo it at the last minute. If I had planned on that 2-hour delay, there's no way I still would have made the flight. And most airlines won't pay to rebook you because it's in the fine print, which not everyone is aware of. And finally, if you've watched my husband and I's videos, you know that we love airport lounges. If your home lounge or one you visit frequently usually has a wait to get in, I have a great tip. Next time there's a wait list, take a photo of the QR code or save the waitlist URL that the QR code takes you to, and then save that onto your phone. This way you can join the waitlist again later without having to go back and scan it again in person. If I'm traveling at peak times when I know there's going to be a 30-minute or an hour wait to get in, I'll join the waitlist when I'm on the way to the airport or when I'm checking my bag. My last category is reference tools. One of the most helpful things I keep is a simple spreadsheet of hotels I've stayed at. After a few years, it's surprisingly hard to remember the exact name of a hotel you loved or whether a place you remember was actually terrible. Booking histories on travel websites don't go back that far, and old confirmation emails eventually get deleted. I track the hotel name, the location, and the notes on whether I would stay there again. I do the same thing for cruise ships and rental car companies, which makes repeat trips way easier to plan. Next are Google Maps lists, which I use constantly. I keep one map of places I want to visit and recommendations I have saved from friends, videos, or articles. When I arrive somewhere new or am planning a new trip, I already have a visual idea of what's nearby. I also keep a separate Google map of restaurants I have visited and loved. When I return to a city years later or I'm on a spot for a recommendation from a friend, then I'm not relying on memory. I already know where I want to go and eat again. And finally, this is my big hack for planning walking days. I use Viator all the time to book activities, but sometimes walking tours are out of my budget, or I decide I'd rather do a walking tour at my own pace and not listen to the history of a place on and on from a guide, which sometimes I'm into and sometimes I'm not. If you find a walking tour you like on Viator, copy the itinerary stops and plug them into the Google Maps for yourself. You can follow the exact same route at your own pace and stop when you want and still get the structure of a well-planned tour without being locked into their schedule. And that wraps up my travel hacks for 2026. Every tip in this video is something I personally use this year, and I hope at least a few of them make your next trip easier, cheaper, or less stressful. If you want more ideas, I have a full travel hacks playlist here where I share my tips from previous years and dedicated hacks for staying in hotels or flying as well. I'll link that video here if you want to check it out. If this video helped you, I would love it if you gave it a thumbs up. And if you travel often or are trying to travel smarter, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future videos. Let me know in the comments if you have a travel hack that has worked really well for you. I love hearing about new ones. Thanks so much for watching and safe travels.